It's a beautiful day for content creators. The Game Awards just happened. A lot of people won and got really hyped up about that. But some content creators are struggling a little bit with their fans. About a week ago, Ruby Rose, one of the top OnlyFans creators, tweeted out that she ran into her #1 spender on OnlyFans. However, that same spender then ran in to 2 other OnlyFans models who he had also spent obscene amounts of money on. A lot of people were just kind of making fun of this guy on Twitter, on Reddit, probably on TikTok. I don't know, I haven't checked that. But it's starting to become a bit of an issue. OnlyFans, their whole motto is to kind of create a safe environment for their creators to be able to do whatever they do on the platform. However, personally, I feel like meeting your top spender online when your said top spender had been sending messages like, there is not a single other person in the world as perfect as you, and you could be my queen and I could be your king. I could give you anything that you could ever wish for. It just... And then tattoos, you know, her face on himself. I personally wouldn't feel safe with that. I wouldn't feel really all that safe. OnlyFans in general is generally seen to be problematic. I'm sure you all have probably seen some clips from an alpha male podcast that's them generally degrading any woman who does OnlyFans, or just degrading women in general, saying they will do OnlyFans. But if it's seen as so problematic by general culture, why are so many teachers and other people turning to OnlyFans? This has been an issue for a bit. The most recent article that I could find, I believe, was just uploaded earlier this month. But a lot of teachers are turning to OnlyFans, and it is because of a lot of factors that... Here's a brief video on why I think OnlyFans isn't the problem, but it also cannot be a solution. A lot of teachers have started using OnlyFans because they cannot afford to pay off things like student loans or support their families. Let's see, the one woman in this article, and I'll link all of these in the description for you guys to read through at your leisure. One of the teachers here, Gaither, a single mother. And a lot of other people I saw who decided to turn to OnlyFans were single parents, or who could really support their family. And student loans have also been crippling, but we'll get back to that in a second. That's another part. Celebrities have also been using OnlyFans a lot. For them, I'm not going to scroll down because I remember that had some lewd images and I don't want to get demonetized. A lot of celebrities are also using OnlyFans, which I found interesting because you would think that celebrities, you know, are upper class kind of people and they could support themselves without OnlyFans. So I think that's just kind of something they do for their personal preference, and they don't have to do it if they don't want to, because a lot of other, you know, celebrities and actors don't. But the issue, referenced particularly in this article by, I believe, NBC Los Angeles, talks about how multiple other teachers started OnlyFans after student loan payments were resumed in October. So on October 1st, student loan payments were resumed, and on September 1st, the interest on said payments was resumed. And so a lot of people who had high amounts of student debt realized, oh crap, I can't afford this. I can't afford to pay my loans. I can't afford to feed myself. And I am being absolutely crushed under this amount of financial pressure. So what do a lot of them do? I wouldn't say a lot of them. Just what do some of them do? They turn to OnlyFans. However, this is not a fix for everybody, because I did look it up, and the average OnlyFans creator only makes $150 to $180 per month, which is about $2,000 a year, which it isn't a whole lot. I think I saw something where, like, the majority of the money made from OnlyFans was from, like, the top 16% of the creators made 33% of the revenue or something. I don't know. You'd have to fact check me on that. It's just a rough remembrance. If a lot of creators, you know, don't make all that much, then why would they do it in the first place? Why would that be seen as a kind of fix to their student loans? And I think it's because people are desperate. Less people want to become teachers because it's a kind of a shit job. You don't get paid. The students are awful. The environment is generally awful, and they do not have a whole lot of time to even take on a second job, because after being at the school from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., then they need to go home and do grading and prep for class tomorrow and all this other stuff. Teachers who need to make more money but don't have the time to make more money, OnlyFans is a super easy way to do it. You know, put on a sexy outfit and do a photo shoot for 20 minutes. You could make $3,000 of that, which is wild, the amount of revenue that OnlyFans generates to me personally. And so I'm sure if any of you are above the age of 40, which I highly doubt it, but I'm sure you guys have probably heard this from your parents, where it's like, don't take on student loan debt, or, you know, at least try to not take on that much because it's bad, it's hard to pay off, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of people are taking on student loan debt. Like, I think somewhere I saw where, but in like 1990 to the early 2000s, 1/3 of people who graduated high school went on to college, and the vast majority of them, you know, paid their loans. Maybe like 23% didn't even take out loans in the first place. My father didn't take out loans when he was in college. He got a master's degree, and he worked as a bartender. Now his schedule wasn't particularly healthy. He maybe got 4 hours of sleep a night for several years, which is not the best. Please sleep. But it was still possible. Right now, student loan debt has increased so much. So this article says that student debt has more than doubled in the last 2 decades. As of March 2023, about 44 million US borrowers collectively owed more than 1.6 trillion with a T in federal student loans. Additional private loans that bring the total above 1.7 trillion, so that's like an additional, I don't know, billion or something, surpassed auto loans and credit card debt. Only home mortgage debt at about 12 trillion is larger. So that's insane that people who want to pursue a higher education have to essentially put them in this horrific hole of debt just so they can, you know, hopefully get a job. Because the other issue with this is that if someone can't work full-time in college or can't work enough to be able to pay off their classes or pay off their semesters as they're going through the school year, they'll probably have to take out a loan. Yet the interest on that is pretty high, but a lot of people really don't have a choice, because a lot of jobs won't hire people unless they have a bachelor's or a master's degree. Associate's degree essentially means nothing by this point. Bachelor's, it's okay, but a master's is vastly preferred amongst a lot of employers, even for a variety of entry-level jobs. If you don't have a degree, the majority of people who don't have a degree, unless they're content creators, will likely be in the very lower class income-wise. They will not make a lot of income, most likely. Even with the minimum wage raised, which we will get back to in a moment. Side note, people with a bachelor's degree tend to take out more debt because that's 4 years of college instead of 2 for an associate's, but are more likely to be able to repay it than people who get an associate. So someone with the bachelor's takes out more money, but can probably repay it. Same for masters, where masters takes out more money, but also more likely to pay it versus someone who takes out an associate's. And circling back to the minimum wage, this was an article that was updated in 2022, so it was a bit ago, where 55% of workers say their pay isn't keeping up with the inflation. The inflation was recently increased, I believe in July, to $15 an hour for minimum wage jobs. A lot of people really fought for this, since the minimum wage hadn't been raised since 2009, which is wild because that was so long ago. I think in 2009 I was 3. I was like an infant. I was a baby in 2009. So it's good that the minimum wage was increased. However, a couple issues coming with that. The first issue is that a lot of people still feel like they can't afford stuff. Though this increase in minimum wage is helping people who do make minimum wage, it doesn't seem to be climbing the ladder more. People making minimum wage will make $15 an hour, and maybe their managers will make I don't know, like a couple bucks more. But then the further up the ladder you go, the increase in wage essentially disappears. And I think that's what a lot of teachers are running into, where even with an increase of minimum wage, that's not really affecting their paycheck. And I'm sure many of you have heard of the shrinking middle class, where it really is shrinking. And so even people in the middle class are like, hey, we're not broke, but it's not exactly like we're particularly wealthy. You know, some middle class people are still living not exactly paycheck to paycheck, but close. And with that, the middle class isn't really seeing any kind of benefits from this minimum wage increase. And a lot of people are also arguing that this minimum wage increase will only help people who make minimum wage for a short period of time. Like this article stating why raising the minimum wage has short-term benefits and long-term costs. And to summarize this article, it's pretty much saying that though short-term, employers will need to pay their workers $15 an hour, they can be automated within the next few years because things like AI are progressing quite rapidly. If an employer looks at an employee and says, I don't think you're worth $15 an hour, maybe $7.50 but not 15, then they will find ways to automate in the future to replace this lower level job with something AI generated. I'm sure many of you guys have seen at McDonald's, they have the electronic ordering stations. So those two are automated jobs of a cashier. So instead of having 2 additional cashiers, well, now they have these 2 additional screens. Some people argue this, however, like this article from the New York Mag, where a new study finds a high minimum wage creates jobs. And this was the most recent article that I found about minimum wage. It was posted in May 13th, 2023. I believe this one was in 2022. What this article details is that a lot of people haven't really seen the amount of automation of jobs as originally expected. That was the main argument against increasing the minimum wage, from what I could tell, was that not only would jobs be automated and create a higher unemployment issue, but that also employers wouldn't be able to afford to keep their businesses open because they were having to pay their employees more. And I have seen this issue with a few kind of smaller businesses where they really can't pay their workers any more than they already are. But I know that in my area in particular, I still see a lot of for hire signs where businesses definitely aren't struggling with too many employees. This was a section of the article that I particularly liked, where it said that raising the minimum wage successfully increased hourly pay for workers in the bottom 10% of the income distribution without reducing wages for those in the middle, and that the implications of employment were slightly more positive. The higher minimum wage had businesses seeing more job growth. And I think that's an issue that's being had in China right now, if I remember. But a lot of people in China aren't wanting to work because the jobs available are very low level, packaging boxes or something for hours and hours and getting paid very, very little. And so a lot of people in China are choosing the option of just not working and being stay-at-home kids, and because their parents will already have, or parent will already have a job in place. And so as long as they do stuff around the house to help sustain them and their family, then they're staying at home because job opportunities are awful. But we're not really seeing that with an increased minimum wage. However, that is still not solving the issue with teachers and why they're turning to OnlyFans, as well as other people. And so here's my great big conspiracy theory, because as we know, teaching, it hasn't been great. This is from September 11th, earlier this year. A lot of teachers have had to turn to getting online teaching materials because there aren't any teachers for the school to hire, or it's severe underqualification. And schools don't want to go to parents and say, we got a warm body to fill this spot. So this is also a good read about the general kind of situation as to what teachers are doing. But overall, I'm sure many of you guys know, if you have been to public school, that there's way too many kids in one classroom, and nobody really gets the amount of time or help they need. And this has become a serious problem, because what's happening right now between education and the economy is person doesn't get good education in high school because there aren't enough teachers to get them. Student wants to become a teacher to fix this problem, so they go to college, but they rack up a bunch of debt because they didn't learn a lot of good skills during their middle school and high school years to be able to get a high-paying job during college or make a whole lot of income during college to help pay off these loans. Person gets out of college, they have their teaching degree, but they also have a lot of loans. Teacher then goes to teach at school, but are severely underpaid. The environment is terrible, and they don't know what to do about their debt. Teacher potentially has a child. So not only does childcare have to be paid for, but just generally sustaining their lives and things like health insurance. Teacher realizes that they will not be able to make any more. So, instead of quitting their teaching job and essentially never using the degree they got again in search for a new job, except it's hard to get another job that's not minimum wage because you need a bachelor's or a master's degree for almost everything, teacher turns to OnlyFans. Except students are going on to OnlyFans, despite OnlyFans supposed to be only an 18+ site. So then students going to school, even co-workers, and that one article was a co-worker who ratted the one person out. So student or co-worker then finds teacher's OnlyFans, goes to principal, is like, hey, I found this. Teacher gets fired or is pressured into quitting, and then the only thing they can do is continue with OnlyFans or try to find another job. And for some people, they've been able to continue with OnlyFans. They've just been able to do that, which good for them, you know? If that works for you, then that works for you. But I don't think this is a long-term solution, because even though OnlyFans has over 220 million users, I believe it's what they estimated at, and makes several $1 trillion worth of income, this is not able to last long-term, especially since the average is about, $160 a month. Now, my first reason as to saying this is because when I was constantly streaming on Twitch, I was in the top 8% of streamers did not make $100 a month. I'm not even sure if I made like $10 or $20 a month. I made very little money, yet was still within the top 10%. And so, though a lot of people may be in the top, whatever percentage of OnlyFans creators, they probably aren't still making a lot. Additionally, with the kind of general bad rep that OnlyFans has, I find it highly unlikely that people who do become OnlyFans models will be able to find, I don't want to say office job, but quote-unquote more professional job, because it'll be known that they have an OnlyFans. Probably. I don't know. You should use an alias if you do something like that. Nobody's names online should be real. We all need fake names. It's this circle of problems, but it doesn't start with OnlyFans. And though it might end with OnlyFans, it's not going to do that for everyone, and I don't think it's going to be sustainable. Many of you, if you've been alive for longer than 5 years, you have seen social media apps come and go, and you've seen ones like TikTok suddenly blow up, and you've seen ones like Twitter be burned and then thrown a black and white blanket with an X on it, and then that continues to burn because it was just thrown on top of the fire. So, though it's working right now, it probably won't work forever. And the real issue is it's less the OnlyFans and you know, the number one spenders and the tattoos and all this other stuff. And it's more of just the fact that we can't, like, the society can't really afford stuff, and the quality of education is severely going down, and these are more systemic issues that I will not consider myself quite qualified to speak on yet, but it is worth thinking about the next time you hear someone is an OnlyFans creator and you want to think negatively about them. They are probably just doing the best they can, and this is probably a last-minute resort for them. And it was probably something that they wouldn't have done unless they were desperate to be able to clothe and feed their children, clothe and feed themselves, any other family members, be able to continue working a job that they're passionate about, like teaching. Some people actually want to be teachers. That's crazy. They're not being supported at all, but they still want to teach because they care about that and they're passionate about it. Just a little thing to think about. I'm gonna go edit this now so I can get it posted tomorrow, hopefully. I have to be up at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow. It's not bad, but I'm also a little baby, and I hate waking up early. Oh yeah, I'm also a college student, and I could not imagine working a full-time job right now. I think I would die. I think I would just perish. So let's be glad that I'm not working a full-time job or perishing.